your what we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, how you feeling? My name is Talib Kweli, the BKMC, the MCEO. Jasmin Leigh is in the house.
Hey.
My partner, my co-host. Give it up for Jasmin Leigh.
Oh my gosh, don't stop.
You see how they started giving up for you before I even said to give it up. See, we got them trained.
Yeah, man, they're excited.
I'm excited too.
Me too.
Today is going to be a very exciting episode of the People's Party. Today we have someone who I'm proud to call a friend of mine, someone who the greats in their field call one of the greats. This man is a visionary. He's been trying to improve the world for a long time. His career spans decades. You grew up with him. You know him from Colors. You know him from Devil in a Blue Dress, Hotel Rwanda, Boogie Nights, Out of Sight, DuckTales.
Black Monday.
Black Monday, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's an actor, a writer, a director, a family man, and the first Avenger on People's Party. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the wonderful, the talented Don Cheadle in the house.
Come on with it.
Yeah. What's up, bro?
What up, bro? How you feeling? Glad to be here. Thank you.
Don Cheadle, y'all.
Welcome.
What's up?
He gets a second round of applause.
Yes.
I paid for that one.
So the first time I got to know you as a performer, it's a wonderful little film called Colors. Colors is so important just in our culture, you know, like Dennis Hopper, Sean Penn, your character of Rocket. Your character was not, you know, one of the main characters, but was very central to the story. Can you tell us about your experience on that film?
That was wild. That was one of my, probably one of the first movies I did. Yeah, Hamburger Hill, Colors. I think it was the second.
Right. Hamburger Hill was the shit.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah,
that was another wild experience.
Yeah.
But so Colors, I'd moved to LA in '82 to go to school, to go to CalArts to study acting. And
From Kansas City?
Yeah, from Denver. Kansas City, then Denver.
Okay.
Kansas City, Lincoln, Nebraska, Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, and then,
Traveling man.
Yeah. So I got this, I moved out here and I really didn't know anything about the LA culture. When I auditioned for CalArts, which is where I went to college, I stayed with my cousin in Pasadena, and I came out and he was like, "Oh, you can't wear that blue shirt." I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah. He's like, "No, you can't."
Right.
They trip over the blue shirts and red, blue and red. I was like, you have got to be joking.
Right.
People don't care about what color shirt you got on. They're like, no, for real, you got to take that shirt off.
Right.
So
I had that experience too coming to LA.
it's
Me
wild.
too. I got banged on.
Oh, for real?
I live in a blood neighborhood, and I was wearing like this big ass blood red bubble coat walking down the street. It was my own fault.
They were like, who are you? What
Right.
set you claim? You're like, no, I just
I was
like the
like,
jacket.
no.
They're like, no, you can't just like the
I
jacket.
just start cheesing like, I don't know.
But I kind of, so when I did the movie, it was, I was steeped in cryptum and bloodation, and it was day one. I got in my wardrobe, and I'm all blued out, head to foot. And I'm sitting on this park bench, and I'm just kind of waiting because we're getting ready to shoot. And this dude comes walking by, and I'm just kind of looking at him, like, oh, I wonder if he's an actor. No, he was not. He was not an actor. And he was not acting.
Right.
His name was J-Bone, and he was for real. And he saw me, and I just looked back at him, and he started walking, just mean mugging me, just walking over to me. And I was like, damn, I'm supposed to be the leader of the Crips. I can't get punked day one.
In front of your fake game.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, wow, either I'm gonna die or this is gonna be a real interesting moment. So he just walked all the way up to me. He's like, what's up, cuz? I was like, yo, what's up? He's like, what set you with, man? I was like, well, what set you claiming? I was like, I'm just an actor. He's like, all right, I just want to see what the fuck was up. I was like, okay. And then he left, and I was like, wow, this is gonna be a very interesting movie.
Right.
And then it became, then as things went on, we were shooting one day, and it was 2, 3 in the morning. Everybody's tired, punch drunk. It's the scene where we do the drive-by on the blood. And I'm supposed to tell him to shut the fuck up in the thing, right? So J-Bo's sitting behind me in the thing, and we get ready to do the shot, and I'm like, man, shut the fuck up. And we cut, and he's like, shut the fuck, you sound soft as fuck. You sound like a punch, shut the fuck up. And so I'm like, no, we got to do this thing for real. So then I was like, for real, J-Bone, shut the fuck up, for real.
Right.
He was like, what? It's like, I'll smoke you in this car right now. I was like, I'm about to get killed on the set of a movie
Wow.
for saying my lines as an actor in a scene.
Art imitating life.
Yeah.
Imitating art, imitating life.
Yeah, it was bad. But so there were many incidents like that because all the extras were really Crips.
That's how it was for Straight Outta Compton. They had real hood people on the set, and you could tell the people that were actors and people that were actually from the streets.
But how can you do that story without having the real actual people of, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, we've probably seen some where they didn't, and they were like, yeah, that doesn't feel real.
Right.
But yeah, we couldn't. I mean, it was kind of whack actually because they arrested him on some warrants or something that he had. And said,
by
you can
J-Bo?
and they said you can either be in this movie and get all your homeboys in the movie, or you can go to jail. So what do you want to do?
Wow.
I heard that for the Ice-T video for Colors that was all real gangbangers. Yeah, that shit.
Probably is a real serious
That
culture,
movie,
obviously.
that video plus that movie introduced visuals for gangbang culture to America, I think, for the first time in a real way.
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper had an incredible vision for that. He went from Easy Rider to Colors. Do you see parallels with those two movies?
I don't know. Dennis is a very interesting guy, very interesting artist, collector of art, himself a photographer. R.I.P. Dennis.
Yes, rest in peace, Dennis Hopper.
But no, I think he really brought a very interesting vision to the thing, and Sean Penn as the cop who we all hated on the set,
Right.
Because he was always in character.
So he was Pac-Man for real.
Yeah, we hated it. But yeah, he's
still in character right now, running around the world.
Yeah, he's still in character. He ain't never dropped it. But yeah, it was just, I think he brought a lot of those same sensibilities, just his idea. And Haskell Wexler was the DP, very famous, R.I.P. Haskell Wexler, very important cinematographer in the pantheon of cinematographers. So yeah, Dennis just brought all of that, which was an interesting mix to bring that to that storytelling and done that way. I always wanted to see the movie of the gangbangers though. I was like, this is a cop movie, kinda.
Yeah.
I kinda wanna see the gangbanger movie.
Did you draw from the people that were actually in gangs on set? Like what kind of little mannerisms or things that you picked up from them and used?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to. I mean, I always try to absorb that stuff and when you have the real people around you, it's obviously something that I'm always looking and trying to steal things. But it was to peel back the layers and get to know them as just guys and not like, gangbangers or whatever, just dudes, was really interesting and to hear their stories and to be accepted in. And then they were like, if you want to if you want to crip for real, I was like, no, I'm good. I think I'm good. I'll just keep
See,
this
in the
acting
music
thing
world,
going.
that happens in hip hop, but then they become Crips.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I was like,
They'd be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
yeah, let me gangbang.
Yeah, I should totally do that.
Yeah, no, like, no, I'm straight.
It might be cool for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They wanted me to do submissions like, because you do that whole Hollywood thing. You can get in places we can't really fuck with, so you can. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna just stay an actor if that's all right.
I'm just gonna act.
I just got acting.
Now you also played famously Ice Tray in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, Ice Tray.
And that character was also important. That Ice Tray, I guess, is like the rocket of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Right.
That's hilarious.
But that show was, I think that character, and it was a small role, it wasn't a big role, but that character was important because it humanized Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in a lot of ways. They was starting to deal with what Will Smith's character and what that family would look like in a real situation.
Right.
How did that come about?
That was literally just an audition, and I just went down and it was funny because I was dating Karen Parsons at the time.
Okay.
So it was not connected to that. It was totally
okay.
random.
I was like, that's how Hollywood works. Okay.
No, actually, I went and I got the part, and I told her later. She's like, "What?"
Oh wow!
I had no idea. I was like, I just wanted to go get it. I wanted to get it with you, but.
You're so sweet. I'd have been like, this is the part I want.
Yo, you need to make this happen.
Make it happen.
But that was just, it was just an audition, I was just out and doing what actors do, just trying to get a gig. And that was a real interesting one too. I've had so many interesting things, but that one, they wanted to, by the middle of our shooting, because you shoot that, it's shot in front of a live audience, so you come to table read Monday, Tuesday rehearse, Wednesday rehearse, Thursday do it in front of a live audience. So by that Thursday, the producer said, we actually want to do a spinoff around your character.
Oh, wow.
And we shot a whole pilot.
Okay.
Didn't get picked up.
But you did.
What was the name of it?
In the House. And they kept
In
the
the
name.
House.
Yes.
Oh, I love that
For the
show.
LL thing.
For the LL's joint, yeah.
So LL is like Ice
Dang,
Tray
he
is a
stole your
prototype.
show.
Exactly.
Y'all need to have like a battle or something.
Yeah. Go back on lip sync and holler at him about that.
You should. That'd be great. One of your first earliest appearances was as a dancer for the Angela Winbush video. It's a real thing.
This is also true.
How many other dance videos were you in? And what are your favorite moves?
Zero. None
That's the
other.
only one?
I wasn't even gonna do that one. I literally was taking somebody who needed a ride.
That's how it happened. That's how it happened. Come on,
down
get
to
in
the
video.
spot, and they were like, so will you want to try it? I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm at an art school. At Cal Arts, it was dance, theater, film, animation, actual visual art. And what we had to do, it was really a conservatory. It still is very much a conservatory atmosphere where you just stay in your one métier. That's what you do.
Right.
But on Wednesdays, we had critical studies, which meant you had to take things in other disciplines. So, I took a dance class just to see, and I took, you take an art history class or whatever. So my friend was like, well, you move, you can move, you're in that dance class, why don't you just see what's happening? So I was like, okay, and Debbie's just like, Debbie Allen.
Debbie Allen?
She's just like, well, let's see it. I was like, I'm not really a dancer. She's like, well, let's see. So I did it a couple times, and I was like, I can't do this. So I was leaving. And she says, you don't like my choreography? I said, no, I like your choreography. That's the problem. I'm not really a dancer. I don't want to, abuse your choreography.
Right.
So I'm going to leave. And she's like, well, okay. And I was leaving her house. I was walking down the driveway, and she ran out of the house and said, you know what? No, you're not. I'm not going to let you quit. You get back here and do this choreography. I was like, you're going to
That sounds like exactly what Debbie Allen,
in
your mind.
In my mind,
Yeah.
what you would do.
All that was missing was the staff. I'm like, you're going to bully me into doing this video?
And you did it.
And
What's
she
the
did.
video that she's in with her sister? They were walking down the street dancing. Somebody's video though.
Her and
I
Felicia?
found out a couple of years ago that they were related, and I was
you didn't
just
know
like,
that?
no.
See, I'm from the 80s, so they were ubiquitous. You could not miss the Allen sisters back then.
I bet they was killing it.
Oh yeah,
back in the day.
That's what I'm trying to remember which video they was in. We gonna look that up. I'm gonna talk about that in the comments section. But you actually were in another video that I'm just remembering. You were in Kendrick's video.
Yeah, I was in Kendrick's video.
Yeah, how did that come about?
When I was putting together my movie, the Miles Davis movie, Miles Ahead, I had thought about Kendrick to play the junior role.
Okay.
So I called Dre and said, can you give me Kendrick's number? Or just let him know, hit me up. So we just had been in contact, and I was asking about if he wanted to do the role, and he's like, I'm kind of working on this thing right now. I think I gotta like focus on what I'm doing. It's an album. It was To Pimp a Butterfly. I was like,
That's
good
interesting
choice.
because I definitely damn sure would have did both. I would have been like, yeah.
But he was like, no, and also he
had a clarity of vision.
He had a clarity of vision, and he's like, I'm not sure if I can do that, and I'm not trying to half-ass,
that's right.
on my debut role,
Yeah.
can't pull it off.
Right.
And I'm like, I appreciated that he was like, no, I'm gonna stay focused on my thing. But we just stayed in touch since that moment, and just out of the I'd always say, hey, what's up, fam? We just text back and forth, and I was writing another movie, and he hit me up, and I was showing him how we laid out the 3x5 cards to break down the story, and he's like, why do you do that? What's that about? And we just talked for hours about how to write and how to create, how to do story. I was like, this dude's a super curious, very deep, thoughtful cat. And so we just kind of stayed in touch. And then he just hit me out of the blue and said, hey, I'm doing this video. In a couple days, you want to do it? I said, yes.
Right.
What's the video? It was like,
I heard you had moved.
Had you heard the song?
no, I hadn't heard the song. I didn't know anything. He just said, do you want to do it? And I was like, definitely, whatever it is. And then he sent me the song, and I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to learn your whole song in a day. He's like, no, you just need to learn, learn this part, and we'll figure out the rest of it.
You mentioned the Miles Ahead movie. It's such a fantastic piece of art.
Thank you. Man.
You worked on that for 10 years.
Yeah,
right?
off and on.
Plus, right? You played saxophone in high school, right? Was that informative and why, or a piece of the reason why you wanted to focus on Miles? And also, he's born in Missouri as well, if I recall.
Yeah. Well, that was an interesting one too, because the first album, the first music I ever fell in love with was jazz. The first albums that I listened to, my parents' albums, and it was Sketches of Spain and the Porgy and Bess album.
Yeah, Kind of Blue.
Kind of Blue,
Yeah.
and they had a bunch of Cannonball Adderley records and Charlie Parker records. So
Okay.
I
you like the horn.
Yeah, and that's how I first got into it. You know, I started playing in 6th grade, 5th
Which
grade,
sax
6th
did you
grade.
play?
Alto sax.
Oh, okay.
I ultimately played them all, but alto
played
sax
bari
where I started.
sax.
Whoa, that's heavy.
Oh, yeah, you
in
should've
both
seen
in
me
both
bringing it
ways.
home.
I guess, like, who's this chick with the sled and this big ass horn? Yeah, no, that was So I had been thinking about just enamored of his life and his music and his work and all that for a long time, and then I was working on another movie with a couple of writers that we were trying to put it together, and Miles was inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, not the Jazz Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's right.
And his nephew, they were interviewing him, Vince Wilburn, and they said, "Are you ever going to do a movie about Miles Davis?" And he said, "Yeah, and Don Cheadle's going to play him." Now that was not. That was before I ever. No one had talked to me.
Right.
But he was like, "Yeah, you're going to do it."
happening.
So then the next day, all of this energy started happening around it. Like, well, hey, Vince said you're doing the movie. What's the movie? I'm like, ask him. I have no idea what the movie is.
Right.
And then we just started to put it together bit by bit, and they had a bunch of takes a bunch of ways they wanted to do it, which were kind of traditional, and I just wanted to do something different. But I was like, who's gonna do that? Unless I write it and direct it,
Right.
no one's gonna come up with this take.
Right.
So,
If you build it.
yeah, so I had to build it.
It's interesting because I've often used Miles as a way to defend hip hop music. Because people will talk about how hip hop can be too violent and misogynistic and gangster and flawed, frankly, and contradictory. And here you have this iconic jazz figure who, his albums and his sound and bebop and all that, it's like defines classic American music, right?
Right.
But this dude was a fucking gangster. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
he
And
was.
from what I could tell, you played that part of him. Like you playing him like a G, and you playing him in a way that I feel like he would see himself, even though you're playing a part of his life that he was down in.
Yeah. Well, that was the goal. I wanted to make a movie that was not just about Miles Davis, but that was an experience of Miles Davis. I wanted to attempt to do something that would feel like Miles Davis, that would be an expression of how he
More
would.
personable.
I thought, well, if he made a movie, he wouldn't want a straight ahead movie, I wouldn't imagine. I think he would want it to feel like his work feels, like his art feels, and be very expressionistic and be able to go everywhere and go anywhere. And that's what I thought you were going to say about hip hop, because I think a lot of times people are trying to define what it is, and it's like, well, that's not hip hop and that's not hip hop.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's music. And you talk to Miles, and he was like, he kind of eschewed that word jazz. He's like, I don't play jazz, I play music.
Right.
This
He
is
was-
social music.
And towards there was pockets of his career where some of the jazz people didn't rock with him. He's doing
for sure.
fusion and funk
Yeah.
and hip hop.
Yeah.
Working with Easy Mo B.
Yeah, which is when a lot of people that you meet people and you ask them, do they like Miles? And you say, yeah, and you go, what era? Because tons of people didn't know anything about the jazz. They didn't start messing with Miles until Bitches Brew.
Right.
Until it went electric, until,
Right.
Keith Jarrett and Herbie and all those cats were playing with them. And other people, that's when they dropped off. That's when they weren't messing with Miles
Right.
anymore.
I think rebels make the best music anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think the artist's life has to be a dangerous life. I've heard you speak about the difficulties of getting it made and getting funding without it being attached to a white actor.
Well, it's an international actor. An
Okay.
actor that would be able to sell to a foreign
Right.
investor in
Right.
different territories.
So McGregor was able to do that easily.
Yeah. His name went. He didn't have to be. I could have been a big Japanese actor as long as I could have sold the Asian market. Or,
Right.
It was just different ways to put the funding together, which I also had to crowd fund
Right,
for. I
right.
had to do.
Does this
crowdfunding
sort of hinder the creative experience, having to focus on those business decisions while you're working?
Well, it's not something that I wanted to do that take on the film anyway. I wanted to do the moment when he was down and that his life was intruded on by a reporter and they had to go do the thing. So it wasn't like you're violating the way I want to tell the story by having me have to cast some other character that's not black. But it's just a truth and a component and a reality of how movies get put together and who the pieces that have to be a part of it so they can sell foreign, which we know now isn't true. You know, a lot of times it's like it's just how you market the thing. But that's the easiest way for them to be able to tell themselves that this is going to sell.
Right.
I can put him on a poster and him on a poster, and I know I can go to Denmark and they're going to be like, yeah.
Okay.
You know, so that's always a component of it. But in my particular case, it didn't affect the story. You know, it didn't violate it in that way, because that's kind of the story I wanted to tell.
Well, but first to go on that, it's crazy because like now we're proving to them that black people can sell all over. And the thing is that when you look at hip hop, all countries listen to hip hop. Not just black people. They're white people. There's countries that black people don't even live in, they're listening to hip hop. So it's like, it's crazy for people to think that two black people can't sell a movie. But you were talking about Kendrick Lamar and hip hop and everything like that. So what are you listening to right now? What are your top 5?
Yeah, I'd like to know that as well.
My top 5 what?
MCs. Top 5 MCs.
And this show
top
lives
5.
in the hip hop space very much.
Correct.
All the comments are going to be from hip hop fans.
Yeah.
And
I got
the
it.
top 5, as you know, is
Yes,
a very
I
big
know.
thing. But you don't have a top 5.
I don't have a top 5.
How many do you have?
I'm not, you know what? I go through different phases of, it's like, I'm not even listening to a lot of hip hop right now, to be honest. I'm listening to a lot of jazz right now. And I tend to go back. You know what I mean? There's new music that comes in and I dig it, but the thing that I tend to
Yeah.
like, I tend to go back to older music and
That's
then,
really
the samples
interesting to
came
me
from.
because I always say, as someone who makes music, right, and people be like, yo, people will be like, yo, there's nothing, I can't find nothing to listen to. And I'm like, you mean to tell me that you've listened to everything that's come out?
I've listened to everything. That's it.
For real,
Nothing new.
like you could just do psychedelic rock for a year, right? Or you could just do like, you know, Miles Davis in his funk era for a year. Or you could just do just so much music that's already come out, and you have it right there in your pocket.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's totally
It's compressed in
accessible.
MP3, but you still have it.
Yeah.
You can listen to any song, any genre. That's a pet peeve of mine when people in this generation. I know I used to have to get on the bus or the train to go to a show to discover a new artist and find new music.
Right.
So people are like, I can't find anything to listen to. It's like, you're clearly not trying.
Yeah, you just
Anybody
put
can
your
make a song.
Spotify list on.
Yeah, you're just complaining.
You're just complaining.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
that's impossible.
And literally anybody can put a song on iTunes or Spotify or
Right.
Pandora or whatever.
Go
It takes
make a
2
fucking
seconds.
song.
Yeah.
And put it out.
Listen.
Who are your top 5?
Oh, shit.
Oh, he flipped it and bounced it on you.
What? Okay. So
Top 3.
Of all time or just what I listen to right now?
You pick it. Surprises.
Okay. Who I listen to on the regular basis is Drake. I listen to Drake every single day. I find some way to put him in my life.
So you weren't in the audience the other night when they were
Of course
booing
not.
it.
And I would have slapped every one of them for booing my baby. That's
Yeah.
not cool.
I got you.
Kidding, babe.
He handled that like a champ.
He
But
did.
he did. And
did.
so did Tyler, the creator. And that's how you show support for your fellow artists. Because he could have been like a bully that I'm not going to name and could have like egged it on.
Name
but,
him.
50 Cent. But instead,
50 loves it.
he had his back. And I love that. And
back to these
I listen
top
to
3.
Cardi B on
Okay.
the regular basis. And I listen to J. Cole. Oh, and I also
I was
listen to
gonna
Lil
say
Wayne,
J.
but
Cole.
Lil Wayne.
I like all this ownership of J. Cole being dope on this show.
Oh, I love J. Cole.
No, because J. Cole gets a lot of flack for being positive.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and J. Cole is like
does?
he went. Yeah, there's a thing, right? There's a
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a thing on the
It's
internet.
a thing.
Yeah.
About because he's positive?
Yeah, there's a thing like J. Cole is corny.
Yeah, they
and
say
because
he's boring.
because he wins so much. You understand?
Yeah.
Like he'll show up in sweatsuit and flip flops. I went to the White House with J. Cole.
Yeah.
No.
We all dressed
were
up.
there.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm talking about like,
before that.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
meeting
yeah.
where we dressed. All the rappers had on
Right.
suits.
Right,
No.
right,
And J. Cole had on a Nike sweat tech,
That's
whatever.
how
Did
I'm
he have
doing
on slides with socks
Yo,
on?
and he asked about reparations. He did. I swear
Oh
to
my God.
Yeah.
I swear to God, J.
My
Cole
people,
is
my people.
J. Cole wins so much, but he does it on his own terms,
Right.
and he does it being positive.
Right.
You know, and so I think J. Cole is the type of person where if your life is not about anything, he makes you feel insecure about how you live.
Right.
You know, and so it's like
Right.
that's the whole internet, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
But you can sit and listen to J. Cole, like you can just play him and listen to him all day, and he just takes you through different feels, different levels of life. He has stuff that you can play in the club. He has stuff that's gonna make you sit and think, and he has
Right.
stuff when you're feeling emo. It's
And he's just gonna
perfect.
make it like on demand. Like I'm okay. Here's another one. Like
Yeah.
J. Cole's dope.
No, he's dope.
But we'll talk more about J. Cole when J. Cole come here.
Yeah.
Right now, I want to talk about. I want to talk about Steven.
I want to talk about
Soderbergh.
what you think about J. Cole.
Right. These Soderbergh movies. You're in so many of them.
Yeah, I've been in. Well, all the oceans, clearly. Out of Sight. What else did I do with Steven?
Traffic.
Traffic, yeah. We're about to do something in March.
Okay.
Which is cool.
Out of Sight, man.
Underrated
I've watched
movie.
this movie so many times.
Yeah, it's dope.
Like, that's how you do the shake, partner. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know this movie by heart. Like I quote this shit from this movie that I find myself saying in every day. Your lines, Snoop lines. Like, I'm like, guess what else I'm gonna do? I say that a lot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On the internet, like we talk to each other on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure.
I say that. Like, guess what else I'm gonna do? I get that from Snoop. Like that character, man. That character is like weak and strong at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
He has a lot of flaws, a lot of weakness.
Tons.
The character starts out taking a dive, but then like shanking a motherfucker.
Right. Because he's bragging about it. Yeah. No, messed up dude.
How did that character come about? And that relationship with Soderbergh?
So Steven and I guess that was the first thing, probably.
Also the first movie that made me really feel like J-Lo could really act.
J-Lo is an amazing actor.
I'm just gonna say, I liked the way that she acted in that movie.
That was her. To me, that's the best performance she's got on film.
I agree. Shout out to all the Selena fans in the house over there crying in the back.
Sorry, guys. That was the one. Outside was the one. Sorry. But yeah, that came about. That's so interesting. I don't remember how I knew George because I had done an ER. Was that before that? I don't remember now. I don't remember the chronology. But anyway, they were going to do a reading of Out of Sight. And they said, we just need you to read this part of Snoop. And I came in and I read it, and we did just like a table read with a bunch of us and the producers. And by the end of it, I was walking out, and they came up and said, would you consider playing it? And I was like, nah, I guess so. I was like, yeah. Right. So that's kind of how that started, the relationship with Steven. And then we just kept it up, kept it going.
Go ahead.
No, go. You first.
No, you go ahead.
You sure?
Are you about to do your accent?
What are you talking about?
She thinks she has a Cockney accent.
What? Are you sure you want me to go?
No,
I can wait my turn. I'm quite patient.
We had Estelle here, and she started doing that.
Oh, you were like, duh.
Estelle was like, "What's going on here?" I think that's literally what she said. She said, "What's happening?"
What's happening?
Oh,
they're very, very territorial about. Do we have any Brits in here? Any Brits?
Just me from Manchester.
Yeah. Just you.
She got the regions wrong and everything.
They're not playing. They're not. You got your diphthongs all backwards.
Right.
Well, I just want to ask about your character, Basha.
Yeah.
Was that like?
I got bashed quite a bit for that
Really?
character. Bashed.
Did you?
Oh boy, yeah. The Brits hate.
They didn't like that.
Nah. It depends. When I went to the BAFTAs to do something, and I was in London, and I was walking down the street, and from street to street, like, somebody come up and be like, oh, I love that character, mate, it's great, and then the next street somebody go, don't ever fucking do that again, like threaten my life.
So we're not going to
Someone
London.
come and say, piss off.
Oh, people were like, someone came, went across traffic and did a U-turn to come drive by me and cuss me out for the part. It's like, you guys are very territorial and serious about this voice thing.
But I was at the beach and I met this lady, and she was from
Don't do that.
London.
She can't,
And
now she's in it.
Stop
Now
doing
she's
it.
stuck in
Listen,
it.
she told right with me, and she didn't even know. I told her I was from Manchester, and she believed me.
And she walked away, she was like, I can't believe
Right.
she
was
tried
like,
to do
stupid
that.
American.
What's wrong with her?
What's wrong with her? This chick is crazy.
I might be.
And now there's a theory online that character is an American doing a British accent. Is there any truth to that?
That character's what?
Basher is actually an American doing a British accent.
Sure. Let's
Okay,
go
let's
with
do
that.
that.
Yeah,
Now we
I
can
get a little cover then.
Right,
People
now
be
you
like,
can say that.
Yeah, I can say it. He was an American doing it, but you guys missed that?
You missed that.
Good
You
job.
guys need to be on the internet more. Yeah, no, then that was a part that I wasn't gonna play with that accent, and then my manager was like, "Oh, there are no black British people." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I got to do it." And it was fucked up because I'm in the trailer with a speech coach, going over vowels and consonants, and they're all outside playing basketball and poker and
fair.
shit. Like, that's not cool.
So you never did the accent before you got the part?
Like you messing around, trying to fool people on
What
the
about
beach.
On the
messing
beach.
around?
Messing about.
Messing about.
about.
Thank you. See, that's how bad I am at it.
So you were also in Rosewood. Very important film. Rest in peace to John Singleton.
Yep.
A director that defined a generation for us, and from Boys in the Hood to Poetic Justice to Baby Boy to Rosewood. Rosewood, I feel like, was the film he was trying to get to. You know, his films are very close to the vest, very much about his experience in Los Angeles. And that film, you know, was him trying something different, you know, historical for the first time. And you know, what was it like working, where did y'all film that?
We filmed that outside of Sanford, Florida.
Okay, so Sanford has a lot of history when it comes to black people.
Yo.
Yes, that's like a historical black town, right?
Yeah, and then it ain't.
Yeah, right.
And then in parts you go.
Right, that's where Trayvon was at.
Yo.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like the KKK came to the set when we were filming.
Wow,
that
so
movie.
it was like another art imitating life situation.
Yeah, it's in suits and shit. It's like, hey, we're the local chapter of the KKK.
Wow.
We just want to see what y'all doing.
They introduced themselves?
Yes.
Yeah, people think of Alabama, Mississippi, but they don't think of
You
Florida.
can't get
No,
deeper
Florida
south
is-
than Florida, Panhandle. There ain't
Panhandle,
no
right.
deeper south. That's the
Right.
southest you could be in this country.
Anywhere that's not South Florida is.
Yeah, it was a trip. It was crazy. But John, you know, great experience, and he had wanted me in the movie. They didn't have enough money in the budget, and they didn't have enough to pay me. And he's like, "I'll pay you out of my own pocket."
Wow.
You know, that's just kind of how John was. And we shot that outside of Florida and outside of Sanford, and we're told by the production, like, if your car breaks down, if there's anything that happens, don't go walking up to houses, knocking on doors, don't stay in your car, call somebody from production, they'll come by. So
Wow.
it was heavy like that, and you know, the subject matter,
Right.
it was all, we were all very steeped in it all
How
day
did it
long.
add to the performance, just being in that environment?
Well, I think and something else that kind of created it is they recreated Rosewood in the middle of, you know, we're about 40 minutes outside, so we had to go
Right.
to an area where we could take over some acreage and rebuild the towns.
For people who may not have seen the movie, the town was burnt down.
Yeah.
It was black. It was like Black Wall Street. People are
Correct.
more familiar with Tulsa, Oklahoma, in
Yeah.
that situation. But it's a town of black businesses and black people.
Yeah, that was right next to a white town. It was a mill town, and everybody that was worked for the mill in the white town. And on the black side of the town, everybody was artisans and relatively affluent at that time. And there was as much a cultural and economic reality that freighted that as much as it was about black-white. That always supercharges it, but so many other things were at play, which is why I thought that movie was really interesting. Like, there's a line in it when they're looking for my character, who they've decided is the dude who raped the white chicks,
Right.
and so they're trying to find us under the pretense of that, gonna burn down the whole town. And so they go in my house, and my character is a piano teacher. Sylvester Kerr is a piano teacher. And they come back and they're like, "Did you find him?" He's like, "No." He's like, "You know that nigga got a piano in his house?" He's like, "I don't have a piano. He's got
Yep.
a piano." And his friend's like, "You can't play the piano." He's like, "That ain't the point.
That ain't the point.
Niggas got a piano. I ain't got a piano. How does that look?"
Right.
I was like, that is such an important
Yeah.
exchange in that.
Yeah.
You know, it's we
That's the
often
heart of it.
forget
isn't it?
about
that plus the rape
Of course,
aspect.
yeah.
The thinking we're gonna take our women. Like all that.
Yeah, it's a big soup of everything: economic, class, culture, race. You know, it's not just one thing. And I thought that nuance was probably the most important nuance in the movie for me. And when John approached me saying that he wanted to do it, I was like, well, I don't know why you want to do this movie. I don't think that black people want to see themselves chased and hunted, and I don't think white people want to see themselves as a purveyor of this violence. But I think it's an important movie, and I'll do it. I don't think anybody's going to see it, but I want to do it. So it was just the entire thing was just a really cool experience, you know, except for being in Sanford, Florida.
Right. But I feel like even that, you know, it was necessary for you to go.
I mean, absolutely staying in the embassy suites and driving 40 miles.
Yeah, being an actor.
Yeah, being an actor.
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 So you have worked with John Singleton and Paul Thomas Anderson. Can I just buck, man? Like, did you have a part in developing that character in Boogie Nights, or that was just on the script?
You know, that was and Paul. I was introduced to Paul by Carl Franklin, who directed Devil in a Blue Dress, and he said, "There's this young dude that I think you should meet. He's got this movie." And he sent me the script for Boogie Nights, and it was like 160 pages long or something, and it was really written technically, where it had camera moves and you know, the speed, the ramping up the camera, and just very technical script and hard to read. So I didn't totally get it. And then I met him, and Paul was just the most confident person you would ever meet in your life. He's like, this movie's going to be the shit. It's going to be amazing. You're going to want to do it. If you don't, you're going to want to kill yourself because you didn't do it. So you should just say yes. And I was like, I said, my parents are still alive. I don't know that I could be doing porn, sex scenes and shit. He's like, well, you're an idiot if you don't do it.
Your
So
scenes were very classy.
Yeah, my scenes were classy.
I noticed.
Yeah,
I noticed the difference in your scenes and some
but they
other
were
people's
in there.
scenes.
I don't know.
Watch the movie?
I think he took it out just because, when he saw the goods, he was like, oh, we can't put that on film.
Right.
No, but he just
Y'all caught that, right? Just slip that one in there.
I tried to slip that in. He's like, you can't upstage Dirk Diggler. I said, I got you.
Oh God.
But he was, just obviously, you look at his work. He's just
I
the
love
master.
Man, I love what he does.
And, taught himself basically from reading American cinematographer. He never went to film school, just kind of took a couple classes at AFI or whatever.
Your character in that movie is like the moral core of in the heart of the movie, and it's like Buck is always it's like Buck never belongs. Doesn't belong anywhere.
No,
it doesn't belong at the electronics store. It doesn't belong in the cowboy outfit.
No, he definitely don't belong in the donut store.
No, none of that shit.
Yeah.
And then he ends up with the bag though.
Right.
So he's he's rewarded for his moral.
I never thought about it that way. Yeah, he dances between the raindrops and gets to. When my mom saw it, she was looking at it, and that scene came up, and the camera's pushing in, and the money, and it's pushing in. She said she was going, "Don't take it, don't take it. You're gonna get in trouble."
Right.
She's like, "You a black man? You can't take that as a black man. You're gonna steal it. No, you can't take that."
Oh man.
But yeah, that was a really that's a great movie. That still holds up, obviously.
Yeah, it does, man. I watched that movie so many times. Man. So many times. It's like ingrained in my head.
Does your mom, when she's like watching you play all these different characters, does she still feel like, oh, that's my son, or does she watch it as if it's the character?
She said, "How good of an actor are you?
Right.
Do you fool your mother?"
Yeah. I forgot it was you. Like, oh no, that reminded me of that time I wanted to whoop your ass because you came home. No, she, my parents were always my biggest fans and always biggest supporters. And my mom, even when I was, out here grinding and trying to, before I ever really got a gig, and I was like, I don't know if this is, I made the right choice, and this shit is crazy hard. And she's like, well, it's what you've been talking about, you've wanted to do since you were a kid. You can't stop.
Right.
It'll work out. Just keep going.
So now you are in the MCU, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe for anyone who's not a complete nerd.
And you have to say all of those.
I think they call them blurs.
Blurs, that's what we are, blurs.
Black nerds?
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
Did I just
Blur
teach
gang.
you something?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So good.
You've worked, with these iconic directors and these iconic roles. And now you're playing iconic comic book character. Do you have any feelings on what Scorsese had to say about Marvel movies feeling like, what do you say, it's like a amusement park? It's like going to an amusement park.
They are like an amusement park. I mean,
Yeah, I agreed with what he said.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something that, look, the business took a big turn and it started to turn that way. And maybe this is just the Marvel movies and big DC movies are the apotheosis of this. Did I teach you a word? Do you know that word?
No, I know that word.
No, good one. The apotheosis of this whole expression that's been coming for a minute, and film companies and big studios doing fewer and fewer films and bankrolling everything on these tentpole movies, these 4-quadrant movies, and not wanting to spend money on these, $30 to $40 million, $25 to $40 million movies, which was what I came up doing, which was sort of my bread and butter, which were the sweet spot of those out of sights and traffics and that stuff. Yeah. Those are all like, they're not doing those anymore. Those are different studios are doing that, or they're doing them on Netflix now, or but those so in a way, the oxygen for a lot of those other movies has been taken by these big movies. Now to say that it's just the Marvel movies is kind of not on point. But I don't think he's wrong on balance with what has happened in the movie, in the film industry in general. But it's not like you can't still make the movies. Yeah. He made his.
Right, and there's other outlets now, right?
There's so many other places.
The reason why he's in the press is because he's promoting his movie.
Well, yeah.
So now, I went to acting school. I did. I went to Tisch NYU.
I didn't know.
I did for a year. not a year, a few months, and I dropped out to be a rapper.
Not a few months, a couple weeks.
Did you just go to orientation, Talib?
I did. But
Okay, I went to orientation.
Yeah, I did. I went to a couple of, I was in experimental theater.
Right, yeah.
One of the most interesting things about learning the craft of acting at that point for me was the sense memory. The idea that you would build this backstory for this character. And I found that fascinating. I'm like, that to me is like the meat of it.
Yeah.
But with the Marvel characters, there's this whole rich history.
Yeah, that you just go get off of the shelf.
Yeah, you could just like, I'm not a comic book head,
Yeah.
right? But War Machine is a big part of the Iron Man story.
Right.
Like, is it harder to develop that character when there's so much already there that people expect you to be responsible for?
I think it's a fine line, and really you rely on the writers and Kevin Feige, and they have this plan, this 10-year plan. These the Avengers was a culmination of 10 years, 11 years of their design for this. So there's things where they're faithful to the comic book, and there's things where they diverge, and there's different ways that they want to create this. And to me, that was the Bible, the scripts. The comic books were not the Bible. The comic books help to build the character and
the movies came.
who you are. But yeah, the script, and that's the news story
the
that you're telling.
fans who want to see it accurate or not who you're beholden to.
Yeah, and for them, there's the comic books. Those exist.
It's crazy because I saw that you had to decide in 2 hours if you
Yeah.
were gonna take on 10 movies. Like,
Yeah.
what was your thought process? Just like, give me how did you figure it out?
Well, it was wild because it was something that I had auditioned for it early, and I knew that there was a split. I knew that certain people wanted me in the film, certain people wanted Terrence in the film, so that was
And y'all
before
friends.
the first one. Yeah.
So that was awkward. Was that awkward a little bit?
Well, I produced Crash, and I would put him in Crash, and I was
That was
like,
one of
she was
my
excellent in it.
he was
favorite
amazing in that. He was
movies.
amazing in it.
One of my favorite
Yeah.
movies.
No, so by the time they came to me with it, they had already parted ways with Terrence. They were like, that's the first thing they said is like, Terrence is not doing the movie. So you're not taking a job from Terrence. And if you don't do it, we're gonna go to the next brother in like an hour. So what do you want to do? And it was six.
Definitely the next brother.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's what it is with that character.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the next dude. And it was a 6-picture deal, which is like 11 or 12 years, just doing the math. And I was at my daughter's laser tag birthday party. and they said, yeah, you got an hour. And I was like, I'm at this birthday party. They're like, oh, take 2 hours. So like, decide 12 years?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you kind of got to do it. You got to kind of take a flyer. And so I was just talking about it with my wife and thinking, look, you just kind of have to roll the dice on a thing like this, because it isn't some small.
That's huge.
It's a huge thing, and you're like, well, I guess we're gonna just roll the dice and see.
Right. And now you got action figures.
Exactly, which are which look way too much like me.
You gotta go with your gut
They
sometimes.
nailed it.
Yeah, and we helped them nail it. Me and my kids and my wife helped them nail it, and then they finally did it, and we were like, oh, I don't know if I wanted it to look that much like
Just
me.
make sure no one gets any of your hairs.
Yeah, because then it's on.
Yeah, they can make a voodoo doll.
Yeah, you must be from Haiti or something.
No, but I just joked with my makeup artist and told her I was going to take her hair and make a voodoo doll.
Yeah. You gotta be careful about that. Your hair, your sweat,
Can
your
be creepy.
fingernails.
Yeah.
We'll talk later.
But I have a question for both of you guys. Okay, so as artists, right, we do stuff that we don't like. I'm trying to find a political that we don't like, that we think sucks.
We've done
I was
stuff
trying to
that's
make it
not
nice,
good.
but it's not working.
Yeah.
So like, what's a song?
Who does that? Not me. No, I'm playing. Keep going.
Is there a song or a movie or a part that you feel like you just wish you could go back and redo, just erase it from your repertoire?
Maybe not erase it. Maybe not redo it. No, because I feel like I'm an amalgamation of all of the things I've done to this point, and they all had some play in how I got here. And I think I'm in a pretty cool spot, so I couldn't go back and pull a piece out and go, well, if I didn't do that, if I could just get rid of that. And I was with my mom one time when we were walking down the street, and somebody came up to me and complimented me on one of these movies that I thought was garbage. And I kind of said it, I was like, oh, that movie's garbage. I was like, that ain't one of my favorites. And he looked like, oh, okay, fuck me, I guess. And he walked off. And my mom was like, don't ever do that.
Wow.
She goes, you just told him that he was stupid and that he didn't have any taste.
And it's subjective.
And you didn't make it for you. Did
Right.
you make it for you? You made it for him. Just say thank you and keep it moving. I was
Yes,
like,
mama.
yes, ma'am.
Right. Yeah, man, I've never done anything whack, so I would,
Oh, yeah.
I have no
I would have to
frame
agree
of
with you.
reference.
I would
No,
have
but
to
that's
agree with
I'm
Kweli.
being
I'd have to agree.
facetious. There's nothing I could think of off the top of my head, but I'll go back and listen to my old work, and there's definitely like flows and bars and things that I did that I'm like, I could have did that better.
Right.
Or there's a time in my career where I was, it's like we said, there's ups and there's downs. Yeah. There was a time in my career, and I thank God. I thank God. I'm very blessed that I'm at this place where I don't ever have to do this again. But there was a time in my career where I was taking whatever feature came along just because I had to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So it was like, and I never, thankfully, there's rappers my age who be on Twitter, be like, yo, for features, hit up this number and this and that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I hate seeing my peers have to, especially peers that I respect.
Right.
I hate seeing that. I don't hate on it,
Right.
but I hate seeing it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But there was a time in my career where I'm looking at I'm opening the email like, is someone trying to get a feature? Like, what's up? And I'm looking at the numbers. And I'm like, I'm worth more than that, but I can't say no to that money.
Right, I got to do that.
Yeah, so there are songs that I've done like that, but I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting when you reach that.
Yeah.
And you probably reach it before you actually are aware of it because you just are so used to being on that hustle.
Yeah.
On that hamster wheel. It's like, I gotta eat, I gotta get that, I gotta get that, I gotta get that.
That's what I was gonna say. It's totally a mentality.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about.
Change your mind.
It's not that my financial situation is so much better than it was before. I've just changed the way I think about it.
Yeah.
And I have a different sense of value. I'm placing my energy in different places, so the reward is coming from different places.
Correct.
Yeah.
Master P in I don't know if it was Master P or Lil Romeo, but it was a Revolt Summit, and they said never make a deal desperate. And that made me think about that.
Never shop hungry.
Exactly, because it's like you don't want to be forced into anything, and because that's when you end up selling your soul.
Well, it's a trip too because you do have to play that game a little bit with yourself and try to, we all do things sometimes that we're like, that's not exactly how I wanted that. I've never walked into anything that I'm like, that's 100% what I want. It's usually like, that's 85% what I want. And if I get this, maybe I can get it to 95% what I want. Yeah, and go like, well, where do I need to go? What am I gonna do? What's the impact on my family gonna be? How long am I gonna be away? All these factors that come into decision making about the things that we do. But hopefully you're making, the best decision you can with the best at that time. And it's different for an actor definitely than for you, for a hip hop artist. It's like you're writing your own stuff a lot of the times, and we're trying to pick that script that
speaks to you.
works, that speaks to us, or feel like, do we have some relationship with the director or the producers and the writers where we can make a part be different? And that's just your part in the thing. Then there's a whole other movie that's like not where you're at, and other characters that are doing other things. So there's a lot of consideration about the totality of the piece. It's like, is this going to be something that in its totality, when it's done, I can go, I'm glad to be a part of that piece, because I'm just that one little piece in that whole piece.
At what point did you feel like you made it? Like, what was making it for you?
Friday, I felt like that. I mean, literally, it's
Friday.
It's been something that took a minute, and that's what I was referencing, is that the mentality of it, knowing that you don't have to hustle anymore in that way. My kids graduated from college, they're out, I don't have to worry about that bill. We paid down our mortgage. It's like there's things that I've always been very picky, as you could tell by my resume.
Yes.
But I've always managed to live below my means, not right at it. So I never had to really hustle to get there. But as an actor, those really good projects that you want to be a part of are rare. There's just very few. As you can tell by what you see out in the world, there's just not that many great projects. So you're always hoping that you're going to be able to be a part of something that's good, with a good director, good actors, a good production behind it, and those things are just rare. I've been very, very fortunate in my life to be a part of a lot of them. But the made it thing, or that I was there, I didn't feel like I didn't have to sweat until very recently, I would say, within the last couple years.
Wow. You are very active on social media, on Twitter in particular. I always feel like we often engage in the same trolls sometimes. I feel like you play good cop to my bad cop.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, come on.
Yeah, like I'll come in and I'll curse a motherfucker out, and then he'll put it in a way more eloquent way, what I was trying to say. And then it's funny, it's always funny because this happens a lot. Someone's always going at me,
Yeah.
and I'm going back and forth, and then Don Cheadle will jump in, and they'd be like, oh shit, it's Don Cheadle.
I'm like, but wait, what about that shit you were just saying? Like, oh, I didn't mean it. I just fucking with Talib.
It's so disrespectful.
It's so dope. It's like it's dope. I'm like, War Machine is here. Now what?
Now what? I'm protected.
Now,
Yeah,
I
keep thumb thugging.
I didn't notice as much as we talked on Twitter, and we met on Twitter. I think. As much as we talk on Twitter, I never
Did
noticed.
we meet on Twitter?
I think we started talking on Twitter, and then you came to a party I was DJing.
Yeah.
And then we met in the flesh.
Talib meets all his friends on Twitter.
Yeah, you know that's my thing.
Exactly.
But I didn't notice that your bio said single issue Dem voter in 2020. I can guess, but what is the single issue?
Who can beat this orange motherfucker?
Now that's controversial, and I would also frame myself as this. But as you know, I engage on Twitter a lot, and I get in a lot of people very upset with the establishment. Part of the reason why he won is because people are upset with the establishment. People are very upset at the Democratic Party, particularly in our Black community, where we have a lot of sway with our votes. People want to punish the Democratic Party for taking advantage of the Black vote. And so the pushback to that single issue, which I agree with you on, we have to get Donald Trump out of office, is, well, what have the Democrats done for us?
Yeah.
And so what do you have to say to people? Sell me as someone who's like, the country's always been racist. It don't matter who's president, the hood's gonna be the hood. Why should I be worried about Donald Trump? Nothing's new.
I think we're in a new place. And you know, when you talk to older people and say, is it worse now than you've ever seen it? And they're like, Like, what? You lived through civil rights. Like you went through, you went through when y'all couldn't vote. They're like, yeah, this is worse.
Damn.
Because I think we're, you know, one thing obviously that the 8 years of Barack Obama did was create mass fear. That that, you know, oh no, what's our country? Where are we headed? This is not the direction we want to go in. And the snapback and, you know, the course correction from that has been Donald Trump and has been, you know, open racism, open bigotry, you know, open prejudice, owning it. And it's hard to make an argument, I think, that what has happened before with the Democratic Party there's going to be a sea change now, and that all of a sudden now we're going to be much more progressive and we're going to be more focused on the income inequality and civil rights and the things that we have not fought hard enough for. It's hard to make an argument with some sort of crystal ball mentality that it's going to be different this time. And, you know, it's very interesting with, you know, what Barack Obama said just yesterday about the progressive candidates saying, be careful that you don't push too far left. And I said something about the left-wing Twitter warriors out there too. I was like, yeah, you talking about me?
Right.
I'm talking about Talib.
Right.
But that, you know, we're not pushing the party so far to the left that there's no electability now, and none of these people can be elected. You know, Bernie being too progressive, Warren being too progressive, Kamala not being progressive enough. It's like, where are we as a party? So it's hard for me. I don't know that I could make that argument. I just know that, I just believe that going forward, especially if he is not, if nothing happens from these impeachment hearings, nothing happened with the Mueller report. If we see the amount of chicanery that he's doing now,
Great word.
where are we gonna be at if he doesn't get slapped down for this?
Right.
It's like, it's just open draws. You just do whatever you want.
He's gonna feel unstoppable.
And the people who are almost consistently, not even almost, but consistently, you know, affected negatively and impacted negatively, are the people that are disenfranchised.
That's right.
Poor black and brown
people.
and white people.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have to understand that there are more of us than are of them, and that we have to force our candidates to do what we want them to do.
That's right.
We don't engage deeply enough.
Representation, that's right.
And we don't engage, you know what I mean? It's like we don't realize how accessible our congressmen and women are, our senators are. They're accessible. You can get in front of them. if you create enough of a groundswell, and it may be different now. I mean, I don't know that you can talk to a Republican senator now. I don't know that you can go, mob up in their office. And that's why I'm going, this is different than we've ever seen it before.
Right.
You know, the White House, and that's a ghost town now. You know, he's appointed nobody. There's like 7 dudes around this dude.
You and me were at the White House at a party.
Yes.
It was very lively when Obama was there.
Yeah, on his way out.
Oh God. So
You were my wingman on a very important mission.
We were on a secret mission in the White
We
House.
were on a secret mission, we pulled that mission off.
We did.
what was the mission?
It's a secret stuff.
It's a secret mission.
All right. But
But we have receipts.
Oh my gosh. My question, and I guess it's just like something I was just thinking about as you were talking, because that might be another way they're keeping people down. Because yes, you say the congressmen are accessible, but these people, they have 2 and 3 jobs, so they're not having time to go to see the congressman. So that's just like, if you keep them not being able to afford.
Oh no, it's a very great and diabolical plan. You know? And we haven't, the more important thing that we haven't even dealt with and aren't dealing with, that no one's questioning, is that our election, we have a malfunctioning and a dysfunctional election process.
Right. Which lends itself
to people going, well, why should I do anything?
That's exactly right.
Well, that's what I said we should have been fighting when Trump got elected in office in the first place. And I mean, I guess people wait for another person to take lead. But I was doing research. You don't even have to have a degree to run for office. You literally don't have to go to college to go be a councilman or to move up.
I mean, look at Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And everybody.
That motherfucker failed up. Bigly.
Amazingly.
Yeah.
Bigly.
Very bigly. And it is, you're talking about like these down ballot races are so important, and we don't, people don't pay attention to who's, the election for sheriff, the election for
The
district
local
attorney, and
elections are so much more important.
and those
than
things impact us
national.
Way more.
massively. And those kind of don't get any press, they don't get any heat, and we're as responsible for not paying attention to that as anybody. I mean, yes, they help you, they don't want you to pay attention to it. Like when I was stumping for Kerry in Ohio, they were doing radio ads telling everybody, be sure you get out on Super Wednesday, and it's like, there's no Super Wednesday. You vote on Tuesday. But these were ads that they were running in the hoods.
Fake news.
And they were telling people, if you have a warrant, if you're behind on your child support, if you got tickets, you can't vote.
Tickets? Come on.
But if you're scared, if you and you don't know, you're not educated, and you're like, I don't want to get caught up in the system for voting. Fuck that shit. I'm not going. So it's working on people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues that have to be tackled, and we have to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. So we're in a very precarious position right now. I don't see him losing.
I think I want to think positive, and I think that everyone should just stop saying that, because we can speak it into existence. Like
I've been trying to speak so many other things into existence that I don't think that works. Not for me anyway.
I mean, I think you're being a pragmatist. And,
I mean, I believe
situation
that
on the ground realistically.
If he's not stopped here, and there keeps being this sort of fractious nature of what we're doing with our own candidates, eating our young, and attacking each other on issues that are just not that different. I wish that they would openly collude. I wish in the next Democratic, debate, they would just openly collude.
Like we all here together.
Yeah. And
that makes too much sense.
It's illegal, and have them go, what are you talking about? Like they need
too much sense.
They won't do it. They don't have good enough directors. They don't have a good enough actor. These guys need acting coaches.
Right.
They literally need somebody to tell them how to craft this moment.
Right.
And
They
how
like
to
Nixon with the
design
sweaty lip.
Yeah, they just don't have. They're not dynamic. They're not. They're not interesting. They're still trying to do their stump stuff. They sound like politicians.
Yeah.
It's like. Could you imagine if they asked a question to any of these candidates and they said, hold on a second, and brought a 15-year-old out and said, I'm not going to answer that. Ask them.
Right.
They're the people that they're going to be inheriting all this, and sit down on the edge of the stage. Just the moment people be
Show
like,
them how to
what
listen.
the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, which is the job of the politician.
Yeah.
Like, let me show you how it's crazy.
Let me show you what to do. And like just have questions and just be talking to each other and not answer the moderator and then be like, oh, I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just.
Right.
Just collude openly.
Yeah.
Right.
And when they accuse you of colluding, say, I don't know what you're talking about. Why do they? And it's not like Democrats don't know. It's not like these politicians don't know how to be G's, too. We just want to have the appearance of being above
But that doesn't
impropriety.
work.
Why?
Literally, Trump, no, not the colluding thing, that can work. But what I'm saying is like trying to be something you're not. Trump is in office because he was his asshole-ish self.
No, he's authentic.
Yes, and if other people would start to be authentic, then maybe they would trust them more instead of trying to just, oh, let me eat a pork chop or let me go to this so I can get some black people. Like, no, just go to the people that you usually would relate to.
No, it's that's what I'm saying. And so it's these campaign managers, because these candidates really would do what their campaign managers told them to do. But their campaign managers are going off of an old playbook, and they're, trying to figure out which way the wind blows and all of that. And it's not winning. I hate to use that term because he's co-opted it, but it's not a winning strategy in my opinion.
You did great work in Hotel Rwanda.
Thank you.
Changed the game with that. Performance was amazing. Nominated for an Oscar. What's been happening? You got involved with that activist work, though, talking about the genocide and bringing what happened in Darfur. What's happened since?
Well, there was a fragile sort of a peace between in Sudan, but it went backwards, and it's going backwards. I mean, Bashir is out, but what's come into that vacuum has been pretty tricky right now as well. And again, the same people who have been disenfranchised and are at risk, it's still happening.
Right.
It's not. I think the Janjaweed is still active in the area. The rebels are still active in the area. It's fits and starts. It's like you take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. And I think we're still waiting to see what's coming in really what came in that vacuum.
Now, you've also been active around climate change and working with the UN. These are big, macro issues. What draws you to this stuff? And are there any tangible results of the work that you've done with the UN?
I think the tangibles are that we're seeing much more energy around it. The United Nations is making a big push with TED that they're going to really start focusing primarily on the environment. So I think there's a lot of focus, and obviously Greta Thunberg, what she did has brought a lot of attention to it. And I think we're starting to see a lot more focus on it because we're understanding what's happening. Venice flooded again, 2 days within the week, the worst flooding they've ever seen. Right. I think we're seeing these effects happening in real time. And we understand that another reason this dude's got to go. You pull out of the climate accords, you're not interested in
that was the first
being
thing he
part
took
of
down,
it.
right?
Yeah. So I think it may get worse before it gets better, but I think ultimately it's going to be crystal clear that this is something that we have to act on, and hopefully we're going to be able to do it in a way that they have to just focus on the money. They have to focus on the fact that the green economy is the new development and the newest market that you can get filthy rich in. Hit them where that's their interest. It's like you can get super rich, and by the way, maybe you can help the world. They're like, but I can get super rich, right? Okay, I'll fuck with it.
I used to work at Inkuru Books, and myself and Yasin Bey ended up purchasing it. Back in the days, in I'm thinking maybe 93, 94, Walter Mosley used to come in that store. He used to dress like a gumshoe.
Yeah, he still does.
Yeah, and he wrote Devil in a Blue Dress. And I remember selling this book, and I remember reading that book and reading this character of Mouse. And I remember selling that book to people like, yo, you gotta read this book. Like, this guy Mouse, he's fucking crazy. Like, you gotta check this out. And then the movie gets made, and you do this movie with Denzel Washington, who's an iconic actor. It's just wonderful. Like, that to me was the first time I think people really understood what you could do. How fun was it working on that movie, and how juicy was that character?
That was that was obviously, I had an amazing character to inhabit, and it really came about in an odd way. Carl Franklin, I did his AFI film, his thesis film at AFI. So when Mouse came along, the part came along, he never thought of me because he only had in his mind 19-year-old Don Cheadle from that, thing that he'd done with him at AFI. So everybody in LA was going up for this. Everybody across the country, not just LA, was going up for this part of Mouse. And my agent was going, he won't see you, he won't see you. I said, it's all right, it's whatever, it's no big deal. And I read the book and I was like, I don't really see me as this character anyway. She's like, no, you are Mouse. I was like, nah, I don't see it. It's like, I don't see it.
You was Mouse.
Yeah,
that's you.
But I didn't see it. And so this had been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And one day I was sitting in an ear, nose, and throat doctor's office in the outside area, in the reception area. And Carl Franklin walks in, opens the door. I'm sitting behind the door. Door slams into me. He looks, he's like, Don. I'm like, Carl. The receptionist came out and said, this room's too crowded. You two go in that room. And Carl and I went off into another room. And he just started talking to me about what's been going on, how's your family, what's happening. And he said, you know, I'm directing this movie, Devil in a Blue Dress. I said, yeah, I've heard about it. And the next day, he's like, my agent called and said, you got an audition.
Wow.
And I came in and met with him and read, and he still wasn't sure. He's like, you're too young. I'm 10 years younger than Denzel. So he's like, how can you guys play contemporaries? I don't think it's going to work. And then
He was like his little man. That's how it played out.
it's like, it's like, I said, we can make it work. So
Black don't crack.
Yeah, we're good. I was like, he comes down 5 years, I age up 5 years.
Right.
You know, be contemporaries. And I auditioned the second time, and he said, show up as Mouse. He said, come dressed for the part, you know, stay in character the whole time. And then the rest is history.
Man, that's such a great character.
Yeah.
That was a fictional character, but you've played a lot of actual people. This is a hot topic right now, particularly with the Harriet movie. There's a group of people online who are very upset.
That's right.
Because that character is being played by a Nigerian woman. There was some.
Woman, yeah.
I feel like the movement against that movie is a xenophobic thing, but it opens up a topic of discussion when we talk about the Miles film. We talk about the Nina Simone film and all the controversy over what Zoe was doing with that movie. A lot of people who are not into movies like that, I think, see biopics as documentaries.
Right.
And they're not.
No.
At all. Can you explain why to someone who doesn't do it for a living?
Well, I think that obviously anytime you try to encapsulate the entirety of somebody's life, which a lot of those biopics attempt to do, which is why I didn't want to do that shit at all.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to talk about 4 hours in his life, you know, and try to figure out have that be the departure point. You're gonna miss things. Characters have to be elided, other characters have to be omitted, situations have to be created. You make this happen here. Not to mention what you actually have to deal with when you're making a movie and locations and time and actors and actresses. It's like, you can't attempt to take someone's life and really do it in a film that's a narrative and it's not a documentary and get it right. So that's one. Secondly, I think people are also upset because she is not a Black American. Right. And they want to argue that how can she embody that Black American, that uniquely Black American experience, and be someone who didn't share in it and her roots don't share in it. Now, I understand that people want to make that argument. But if we're talking about being a person who in their past, their family or their ancestors having dealt with oppression and struggle and racism and violence and hatred, it's hard to pick any group really and go, you don't have that in your past.
Right.
So, and we're actors, and
that's the job.
That's the gig. So I have a foot in both camps a little bit. I understand people's pushback against that because, why you can't find a Black American actress that could do that part.
You talked a lot about the business of Hollywood, and from where I'm sitting, it seems to me, and you could tell me better, that it would be cheaper for a studio to hire a British or Nigerian or African actor than to hire an American. Is that true? No,
it's not even about the economics of it. It's really more about the name recognition.
Right.
And a lot of times it's about the availability. You know what I mean? We don't know who else they went to try to make that movie, and they're not available, or they couldn't make the contract work, whatever it is. I think Cynthia is, a powerful woman and a strong actor, and a real artist who I haven't seen the movie, but I wouldn't say that she couldn't pull it off. Yeah. But I think there's so many other factors outside of that people have a problem with her doing that don't take into account, like with the Nina Simone thing in particular. you know, had Zoe not said yes, they may have never done the movie at all. And I guess that's the question. Is it better that you do it in this way, or is it better to just not touch it at all? And that's something that is hard to tell, in my opinion, in the moment. That's one of those we'll see, where, you know, you have to get some distance from that and look back and go, well, what was the ultimate impact of that? What did that ultimately do?
That's the question. When it comes to oppression, it's not about the intention, it's about the result.
And the result is often not immediate, and that's something that you need some distance from to figure out. Like, what metrics do you want to judge the effect of that film or not?
I have another question for you before we get out of here. First of all, man, it's so great talking to you. Thank you for being a guest on this show.
Thank you for having me.
You've helped to make our show special. I think at this point in your career, I don't think you have a problem owning who you are and standing tall and firm in it. And like, this is like when we, in this conversation, you said, we were talking about, you said, I'm picky. You said, you can look at my resume. Like, you have a very impressive resume. We've grown up with you from Ice Tray to now, to Miles. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been a part of, you're iconic. Like, you're iconic for Ice Tray, you're iconic for War Machine. You know, you're iconic for the Hotel Rwanda and the work you did around that. You're iconic for the Oceans films. It's like all this. So there's somebody out there that's watching the show that is striving to be you. Who was the Don Cheadle for you?
You just, oh, wow.
Who was your Don Cheadle? Like, who was the person that you looked at that you were like, I'm trying to do that?
There are probably a lot of them in different ways, you know, and I started, my first love was music.
Okay.
You know, when I graduated from high school, I was very fortunate. I had a couple of different scholarships, and a couple of them were to pursue vocal jazz and instrumental jazz, and a couple of them were to pursue acting. And I made a choice based on where I really believed I was going to be putting in the work, because I grew up around really talented musicians.
It's interesting to me.
And I knew what it would have meant to run up Rob Glasper's Smoke. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be sitting in a room, which I'm not going to shed like that. I'm not going to spend 9 hours running scales and learning solfege and theory. And
we had Glasper on the show, and he said to be a bad jazz musician, you have to be a very good musician. You know, and it's interesting for you to say that. I wanted you to continue your answer, but just to jump in real quick, it's crazy that you say that, because my experience is the exact opposite. I'm in acting school, and I'm looking at the horrors of what young actors are going through, and how much they put into it for very little reward, and most of them was waiters. You know, and there was this kid, Yorlin Madera, Dominican from New York, who said, we were in experimental theater in NYU, and he was like, fuck this, I'm moving to Hollywood. I'm dropping out, moving to Hollywood. And 6 months later, he was like in like a Kool-Aid commercial. And he was like on Young and the Restless. And I'm in New York watching him like, yo, but that was my experience. Like, I was like, I'm not gonna put in that time for that. So let me do music. And then when I developed a music career, I started going on auditions. When I saw Common go on auditions and he started getting roles, I was like, I could do that. I could get a role. I went to acting school. This nigga ain't go to acting school.
Exactly.
And you know, and I would go to auditions and I would sit in the room, and it'd be like other actors that I saw on television in their humble, in there like, the part ain't mine. And I'm like, if the part ain't his, it definitely ain't mine, because he put in that work. Or even if they chose me for a celebrity factor, he put in that work. So I was like, I fell back on that. Like, I'm writing more now, and I'm starting to think about it more, but I fell back because it was the exact opposite of you. I was like, I'm not putting in that work.
Well, the work that I understood, I mean, and what Rob said is so true, is like, to work that hard and still just be good. You know what I mean? And not achieve, like, and I had my bar for what jazz music was supposed to be, there was no higher bar. I wasn't trying to sound like Kenny G, no offense, Kenny G. I was trying to sound
there's a place
like,
for Kenny G.
Like Michael Brecker. I was trying to sound like John Coltrane. I wanted to play like the greats that I heard. And I have a very, very good ear. And I am definitely a musician, but to put it under my hands and to actually create it and do that, I knew what it would take. I knew the kind of work I would have to do it. And I'd always gotten by in school because I had a great ear. So I could solo because I could hear the changes, but I couldn't read the changes really, and I didn't know the scales really, and didn't know jazz theory really. And in order to really learn that, I was like, that's a whole life.
Right.
And I just knew I wasn't going to do it, but it was never far away from me. And it still isn't. Last night I was writing, you know what I mean? It's always in there. And I'm always with Rob whenever he's here, and Thundercat, and I'm always just hanging with these dudes because that's just my favorite shit.
No doubt.
But the acting thing became something for me, and I always took it seriously. Whenever anything I'm gonna take on, I'm gonna be serious about it. You know, I went to Cal Arts. I studied theater for 4 years and have a degree in it, which doesn't mean anything except that I went to school for 4 years.
It's a receipt.
But you know, it's a receipt. But you know, tons of theater experience, and left here during pilot season and went to the Guthrie in Minneapolis and went to the Goodman in Chicago and went to the Public in New York. You know, just always was trying to get as good as I could get in it because I just wanted to be the best that I could be. But the music thing is always like a passenger on my shoulder, like, yo, come back and do this.
No doubt. Well, I want to thank you for always wearing your slogans on your t-shirts. He said, protect trans kids was on the Saturday Night Live shirt. And you and me, you came to my show at the Blue Note, speaking of jazz.
Yes.
And Dave Chappelle was there.
Yep.
And he was talking about the jokes in his special that has now come out since then.
Yes, it has.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And me, Dave Chappelle, and Don and your wife, we had a conversation about the trans community. And Dave's special, we're not going to get right now into how everybody feels about it. But one thing it made me do was it made me want to participate in reaching out to the trans community more. And so I appreciate you wearing that shirt. And you talk about kids in that shirt, and this shirt says the young people will win.
Yeah.
So Don is always about the young people. This is the People's Party.
There you go.
Don Cheadle in the house.
Don Cheadle!
Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.